You probably don't need another money strategy video. Not because strategy is useless, not because learning is bad, and not because financial education doesn't matter, but because if information alone was enough to change your financial life, your life would have changed by now. Think about it. You already know some of the basic things. Save more, invest earlier, increase your income, control your spending, build assets, take calculated risks. You have heard these things so many times. Maybe from YouTube, maybe from books, maybe from courses, maybe from people online showing you how they became rich. And every time you watch one of these videos, something inside you wakes up. You feel inspired. You feel hope. You think, this is it. This is the strategy. This is the one that will finally change everything. But then something strange happens. When it's time to actually do something, you pause. You hesitate. Your mind starts running. What if I lose money? What if I make the wrong choice? What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if this works for other people but not for me? And suddenly, the same strategy that made you feel excited now makes you feel exposed. So you don't act. You tell yourself, tomorrow, when I'm more prepared, when I understand it better, when I find a safer method. But that day never really comes. You forget about it. Life continues. Then a few weeks later, you see someone online making money, someone investing, someone building a business, someone posting results. And that anxiety comes back. That feeling of being behind. That pressure in your chest that says, I need to do something. So you go back to YouTube, another how to get rich video. You search again, another strategy, another promise that maybe this time it will feel safer. And the cycle repeats. This is why learning about money can make you feel stuck. Not because learning is the problem, but because sometimes learning becomes hiding. Most people think the reason they haven't changed is because they don't know enough. They think, I just need the right strategy. I just need the right mentor. I just need the right timing. But if you look deeper, many people are stuck not because they lack information. They are stuck because the moment information asks them to change, their internal pattern takes over. This is the part nobody talks about. You can understand the strategy in your mind. You can know exactly what to do. You can even explain it to someone else. But when it comes to pressing the button, making the decision, putting money in, starting the business, posting the content, having the difficult conversation, your body freezes. And it's not always logical. Sometimes you don't even know where the fear comes from. You just feel it. A tightness, a hesitation, a sudden need to think more. And because that fear feels uncomfortable, you look for relief. But instead of taking action, you learn more. Because learning feels safe. Learning gives you the feeling that you are moving forward. But it doesn't expose you to failure yet. And that's the trap. Learning gives you emotional reward without real risk. Action gives you real feedback. And that feedback is what many people are secretly afraid of. This is what I call the learning avoidance loop. It shows you your doubt, your fear, your insecurity, your lack of trust in yourself. From the outside, it looks productive. You're watching educational videos. You're learning from successful people. You're surrounding yourself with growth content. It feels like progress. But deep down, nothing is really changing. Your income may move a little. Your knowledge may increase. Your vocabulary may sound more advanced. But your pattern remains the same. You are still waiting for a strategy that can remove the fear of acting. But that strategy doesn't exist. Because no strategy can remove the emotional cost of becoming someone new. I've seen this in myself too. There are moments where I kept learning because it made me feel like I was preparing. I would tell myself, I'm just studying first. I don't want to rush. And sometimes that was true. Preparation is important. But sometimes, if I'm honest, I wasn't preparing. I was hiding. Because the moment I had to actually commit, the fear became real. Learning felt clean. Action felt messy. Learning made me feel smart. Action made me feel vulnerable. Learning gave me certainty. Action forced me to face uncertainty. And that is where most people get stuck. Not at the learning stage, but at the transition between knowing and becoming. And this is why not every advice works for everyone. This is very important. Some people hear the advice, take more risks, and it unlocks them because they were too comfortable. But another person hears the same advice and it destroys them because they were already acting from desperation. Some people hear save aggressively and it helps them build discipline. But another person hears the same advice and becomes even more fearful, rigid, and unable to enjoy life. Some people hear start investing now and they build wealth. Another person hears the same advice and treats investing like a lottery because they secretly want to escape their life quickly. Same advice, different person, different results. Why? Because strategy doesn't enter a neutral system. It enters your internal system. Your beliefs, your fear, your self-control, your patience, your identity, your relationship with risk, your need for certainty, your ability to recover from losses, your ability to stay consistent when results are boring. This is why two people can follow the same strategy and end up in completely different places. One person uses the strategy as a system. Another person uses the strategy as emotional escape. One person builds slowly. Another person jumps because they are anxious. One person executes. Another person keeps searching. So the real question is not which strategy works. The deeper question is, who are you when you use that strategy? Because the strategy only works through the person executing it. And if the person is acting from fear, the strategy becomes distorted. This is the part many financial content doesn't explain. Most money videos teach the external move. Buy this, build this, save this, invest this, avoid this, do this. And I'm not saying those are wrong. But external strategy is only one part of wealth. Real wealth is built from 3 layers: strategy, mindset, and behavior. Strategy tells you what to do, mindset shapes what you believe is possible, behavior determines what you actually repeat when nobody is watching. And the hidden problem is, many people keep upgrading their strategy while their behavior stays the same. They learn a better investing method but still panic when the market drops. They learn budgeting but still spend emotionally when they feel empty. They learn about risk but still freeze when uncertainty appears. That's why nothing changes. Because your strategy improved, but your internal system didn't. It gives you the illusion that the next answer is outside of you. But sometimes, the next step is to sit with the discomfort that appears right before action. That is where you finally meet the pattern. And once you see that, the entire game changes. That is self-awareness. And without self-awareness, financial education becomes entertainment. It makes you feel better for a while, but it doesn't transform you. So what do? You don't stop learning. That's not the point. Learning is good. Strategy matters. Financial education matters. But before you watch another strategy video, you need to stop for a moment and diagnose the pattern underneath your learning. Because most people only ask, what should I do? But they never ask, why do I keep avoiding what I already know I should do? And that is the question that changes everything. So here's a simple way to look at it. Every financial pattern usually has 5 layers: belief, identity, emotion, behavior, and outcome. Belief is what you think is true about money. Identity is who you believe you are with money. Emotion is what you feel when money forces you to make a decision. Behavior is what you do to escape or respond to that emotion. And outcome is the financial result that keeps repeating. Let's make this real. Maybe your belief is, if I invest and lose money, I will prove that I'm not smart enough. Then your identity becomes, I'm someone who must avoid making the wrong move. So when it's time to do actual work, your emotion is fear. Not normal carefulness, but the deeper fear of being exposed. Then your behavior becomes overlearning. You tell yourself you are being responsible, but the outcome is that nothing changes. No action equals no feedback. No feedback equals no new confidence. So slowly, you start believing, maybe I'm just not the type of person who can actually do this. But that was never really the problem. The problem was the loop. Your belief created an identity. Your identity triggered an emotion. Your emotion created a behavior, and your behavior repeated the same outcome. This is why another strategy may not save you. Because sometimes the missing piece is not more information. It is seeing who you become when information asks you to change. So before you learn more, ask yourself, what belief is driving this pattern? What identity am I protecting? What emotion appears right before I avoid action? What behavior do I use to escape the emotion? And what outcome does this keep creating? Once you see the loop, your job is not to change everything overnight. Your job is to build new evidence. Small evidence, real evidence. If your old identity says, I can control my spending, then track your spending for 7 days without judging yourself. If your old identity says, I'm too scared to invest, then start with an amount small enough that you can stay calm and consistent. Because the goal is not to become fearless. The goal is to interrupt the loop. The old pattern says, fear appears, so I learn more. The new pattern says, fear appears, so I take one real step. This is how confidence is built. Not by waiting until fear disappears, but by acting small enough that your fear doesn't control the whole decision. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You may never feel fully ready, because readiness is not something you wait for. It is something you build through contact with reality. You don't become confident by thinking about action. You become confident by proving to yourself that action will not destroy you. And yes, sometimes you will make mistakes. But that doesn't mean that you are doomed. It means you are finally getting feedback. And feedback is what learning was supposed to lead to. That is the difference. Learning without action becomes comfort. Action turns learning into growth. And once you see the difference, you stop blaming yourself for being lazy. But you also stop letting yourself hide. That is where real change begins. By seeing the part of you that keeps using strategy to avoid transformation. Wealth is not built by knowing every possible path. Sometimes, wealth begins when you finally stop running from the one step you already know you need to take. Thanks for watching. And if this video helped you see something differently, consider subscribing. I'll be sharing more about the psychology behind money, the patterns that shape our financial behavior, and the hidden systems that quietly keep people stuck. True wealth is never numbers alone. And hopefully together, we can start seeing the things we were never taught to notice. Thank you.